In Brazil, protests continue throughout the country against the government of President Jair Bolsonaro due to the rising price of food and fuel. French citizens go to the polls in the first round of presidential elections. Pollsters show Emmanuel Macron and Marine Le Pen favored to go to the second round. Imram Khan is no longer the Prime Minister of Pakistan after losing a no-confidence motion in parliament promoted by the opposition. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the TeleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news, and we do so in Brazil. Protesters in several cities demonstrate against the policies of President Jair Bolsonaro due to the current hyperinflation that tops the years 2019-2020. Authorities reported demonstrations in more than 80 cities over the current state of affairs in the country, which experienced not only a rise in fuel prices, but also in the rates of all the commodities and goods, which sustained a hike that left a part of the population in conditions of misery. The presence of young generations in the protest is vast, for people of 16 and 17 years of age are in the crowds, asking to be given the right to vote so they can change the country's political fate in the elections due for October. In Puerto Rico, authorities announced the partial restoration of the electrical service after 3 days of shortages in the supply system. Citizens protested over the constant blackouts and the rising rates. On Saturday morning, the private company Luma Energy and the state-owned Electrical Energy Authority informed that over 1 million clients already have access to operational energy services since 4 a.m. local time. The entities also indicated that the task carried out to restore the island's electrical system to the fullest will continue throughout Saturday. The power cuts originated on Wednesday night after a malfunction and a fire in the country's southern coast headquarters, an event still being looked into by authorities. In this context, social movements of Puerto Rico demonstrated on Friday in front of the offices of the Electrical Power Authority in rejection of the increase in electricity rates and blackouts in the country. During the event, the participants reiterated that thousands of people are going through a very difficult situation due to the blackouts, while they left at the doors of the building containers and bags with food in a state of decomposition due to the lack of refrigeration. The citizens demanded that the government revoke the contract with the operating company Luma and implement a transformation of Puerto Rico's electrical system.
I have no generator, no power plant, no solar panels or anything like that. I put up with it like many other people because it seems terrible to me that in the face of Luma's abuse, one has to invest our few resources to do their work. It seems absurd to me.
This company has proven to be incapable. It has demonstrated its level of corruption by keeping the money of the Puerto Rican people without having the minimum capacity to carry out the task assigned to them. The best example is the overseas blackout that the country's electrical system has suffered. In these and the future demonstrations, we demand that the government eliminate the Luma contract and discuss a Puerto Rico electrical network transformation again.
This Sunday in Mexico, a presidential recall referendum will be held for the first time. This is possible after the reforms approved by the nation's Congress in 2019 and the fulfillment of the requirements by the social organizations that promoted it in 2021. Our correspondent Eduardo Martinez has the details on this process.
In an unprecedented event, Mexicans will be able to decide whether or not President Andrés Manuel López Obrador should remain in office until 2024.
I think it's very appropriate because if he does not give what he promised, we can vote for his dismissal.
I think it is a very good decision because this way we can make a midterm evaluation of the whole process that the president has carried out. For referendum to be held at the end of 2021, social organizations began the collection of 2,800,000 signatures, which were delivered to the National Electoral Institute, INE, for validation.
It was born precisely from the social movement where since the last 6 years here in Mexico, it has been demanded over and over to have a tool of participatory democracy to be able to decide freely.
Once the procedure was concluded, the General Council of the INE approved the holding of the citizen participation exercise for Sunday, April 10th. However, under the argument of a lack of budget, the Council decided to install only 1/3 of polling places. 57,000 polling places will be distributed throughout Mexico. When the missing resources were formally requested to the Treasury Secretary, they were denied without justification or motivation. and with an austerity plan proposal, calculated without technical rigor and real information. This process generates mixed reactions due to the high levels of acceptance that the president registers in different polls at the halfway point of his 6-year term. Some place him with 64%, others give him up to 70%. I invite everyone, every 10th, to participate, to go and vote. This is what our opponents should be doing, in an open way. Everyone calling to participate, and those who are against the transformation calling to vote. President Andrés Manuel López Obrador, the main promoter of the recall, accused the electoral authorities of inhibiting participation and of giving little coverage to the consultation that could define the future of his mandate. If this recall exercise has existed, for example, in the 6-year term that began in 2006 and ended in 2012, when Felipe Calderón was in office, the people who have had for it to be done and the people who have voted, and the same would have happened with Enrique Peña Nieto and many other previous 6-year terms. The electoral roll is made up of almost 93 million Mexicans who will be able to cast their vote. In order for it to be binding, some 37 million, equivalent to 40%, must participate. On Sunday night, the electoral authority will announce a result based on the trend which by that time will be irreversible.
Eduardo Martínez, TeleSUR, Ciudad de México.
We are taking a short break now. Join us again after this. Welcome back to From the South. Polling stations opened this Sunday morning in France for the first round of the presidential elections, with candidates Emmanuel Macron and Marine Le Pen very close in the polls. 48.8 million citizens from all over the country are called to vote among 12 candidates. The latest polls of voting intentions show that President Emmanuel Macron and the far-right candidate Marine Le Pen will be the two most voted and will go to the second round on April 24th. In France, the publication of any results, partial or final, are forbidden until the last polling stations close at 8 p.m. local time, and is then when the media will publish the first estimates based on exit polls. So far, according to official figures, turnout dropped noon local time to 25.48%, 3 points lower than in the 2017 presidential elections. And French citizens abroad take part in their country's general elections. French citizens registered in foreign consulates, about 1.8 million, can vote there or at their embassies. Meanwhile, French overseas territories have already voted on Saturday to take into account the time difference, starting with the small islands of Saint Pierre and Miquelon off the coast of Canada, and then the territories in the Caribbean, followed by the French Pacific Islands. The Russian Defense Ministry reported the failure of a new attempt to evacuate the leaders of the Azov battalion in Mariupol. The official representative of the Ministry of Defense of Russia, Division General Igor Konashenkov, reported that the Russian fleet shot down a Ukrainian cargo ship on Friday night. The official explained that the vessel sailed under the Maltese flag from Taganrog Bay to the Kerch Strait, then abruptly changed course and tried to make its way to the seaport of Mariupol. According to Konashenko, it was there where ships of the Black Sea Fleet and the Border Patrol opened artillery fire on the vessel after receiving no response to their demands to contact through the international channel. The impact caused a fire in the vessel's rear. However, the Defense Ministry representative noted that there were no injuries among the ship's crew members. The Russian government denounced on Saturday that Ukrainian nationalists are preparing new intentional actions to hold Moscow responsible for the murder of civilians in the city of Irpin in the Kiev Oblast. Russian Defense Ministry spokesman Igor Konashenkov denounced that agents of the Ukrainian Security Service plan to transfer bodies of civilians who perished after Ukrainian artillery attacks from a morgue to the basement of a building outside the city. The official also said that they are planning another staged action in a forest in which they would have presumably killed members of a Russian reconnaissance group, which would have been sent to Irpin to kill witnesses of alleged war crimes by Russian troops. The purpose of such staged actions would be to prepare videos to be broadcast through the Western media. After 8 years of Ukrainian control in the Donbass, an environment of panic spread across the region. This is still the case amid the destruction left by the clashes residents used as human shields observed the devastation that could have been avoided. Baffled at their side of their land, this story by Special Envoy Alejandro Kirk expands on the matter.
These are not the faces of victorious and joyful beings. This is Mariupol. They are the Russians of the Donbass, the majority of the population here. A story of horror lies behind each and every one. A few days ago, there were the human shield forces indoctrinated in a regime of hate towards the neighbor, if the neighbor is Russian, and they are. Since 2014, any Russian in Ukraine became citizens with less rights. Their language was banned, their organizations were declared illegal. The fate of these people was to disappear, to be Ukrainized, leaving behind the story and culture. That became one big threat. But here today, it's hard to simplify and render those thoughts. Maybe it would have been best to continue to be oppressed and not to lose my home. And who's my neighbor anyway? If I speak now, will there come a night to slit my throat? The priority now is to survive, eat, drink, find the missing relatives. How many are there? Where will they be? Any country, I think, could have influence, but they didn't because of interest. And in the end, everyone let this happen, especially the sides that are in conflict. Then there is everybody else. Everyone let this happen. I don't understand what is at stake. Again, letting this happen, letting people suffer like this, letting people die, children, the elderly, women, anyone at all. This shouldn't have been allowed. In Kramatorsk, north of Donetsk, in an area still under Ukrainian control, a missile hit a train station full of people who were trying to run away from the war. Over 30 civilians died, 10 were injured. The immediate blame, naturally, was put on Russia, even though the missile was Ukrainian.
Today is a dark day due to the tragic news we received only a couple of hours ago from Kramatorsk. It really isn't new to us, the fact that the Ukrainian authorities and the armed factions of Ukraine inflict on this bloodshedding provocation. Similar events transpired in Donetsk in March. All I can say in this case is hold on, friends. We are doing everything possible to finish this as soon as we can, to achieve the objectives of the special military operation, which are to demilitarize and free our territory.
This Russian expert has been studying the war launched against Russia annex in Ukraine for years.
5 days ago, I was on the base of that's Nazists Azov, which was based on Mariupol and the other places, and everything where there was with Nazis swastika, and they have books about Nazis, and they even have those slogans "Ukraina ponad uсе." This means that that's like Deutschland liberalis. The main thing is under everything is Deutschland from Adolf Hitler time. So and those people from Azov, they torture people from Mariupol for 8 years. They kill them, and according to our information, more than 1,000 people disappeared for 8 years.
The Ukrainian president, Volodymyr Zelensky, introduced 2 militants of the neo-Nazi Azov battalion in front of the Greek parliament as heroes. With Greek roots, he said. They fight for freedom. In the Donbass and in Crimea, the Greek population is large. They have been here for generations, but they keep the culture alive the best they can. They don't associate along with Nazis because their fathers and grandfathers fought them. Back in the 45s, when our grandparents and great-grandparents watched the war against fascism, they never thought the grandchildren would have to rise and fight one more against the very evil, pure fascism. I can call it by another name. I've seen so much in these 7 years that it's totally surreal. There are all sorts of atrocities. I don't understand what goes through their heads, how they think, or how they will live after this chaos.
Cristian Inostroza y Alejandro Kirk, TeleSUR, República Popular de Donetsk.
The government of China stressed that the United States has no right to accuse any other country of human rights violations. On Friday, during a press conference, the spokesman of China's foreign ministry, Zhao Lijian, announced that the United States counterintelligence agency established clandestine sites in several countries with the excuse of its alleged war against terrorism. The spokesman also called on the U.S. government to consider these crimes taking place in those secret detention centers and to open investigations against the agents that run them. Zhao Lijian pointed out that despite the human rights violations at these centers, no agents have been prosecuted and accused the U.S. government of covering up the crimes of illegal detention and torture committed by its personnel.
So far, no U.S. official has been held accountable for masterminding, authorizing or implementing the secret detentions and torture program. The U.S. government has gone to even greater lengths to cover up and deny these crimes and human rights violations. The U.S. clandestine sites around the world fully indicate that the U.S. has no right to point fingers at others in the name of democracy and human rights. What the U.S. must do is immediately dismantle its clandestine sites around the world, seriously reflect on its crimes, apologize to and compensate the victims, and hold those who authorize and carry out the tortures accountable.
We have more news coming up after a final short break, so don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. Imran cancelled the end of his government as Prime Minister of Pakistan after losing a no-confidence motion in Parliament promoted by the opposition. The no-confidence motion submitted by opposition parties was backed by 174 lawmakers in the 342-member lower house. The vote began at midnight just after the head of Pakistan's National Assembly, Asad Kaiser, submitted his resignation, claiming that he could not be part of a foreign conspiracy. Khan, who had already succeeded in preventing the vote on the motion from being held a week ago, says to have proof of the conspiracy, for which he pointed directly to the United States following his trip to Moscow to meet with the Russian President Vladimir Putin. Lawmakers will vote to elect a new Prime Minister on April 11th.
Tashrif Rakhein, 174 members have recorded their votes in favor of the resolution. Consequently, the resolution for vote of no confidence against Mr. Imran Khan, the Prime Minister of Islamic Republic of Pakistan, has been passed by a majority of the total membership of the National Assembly.
China, besides sending food aid, is helping Ethiopia with a water treatment plant that is improving the lives of people in drought-stricken areas. A Chinese government-owned civil engineering construction company has built a modern water treatment plant at the banks of a river near the town of Godwareda in the Somali region. They are still laying down pipes for a total of 10 water points distributed throughout the town, which has an estimated population of 100,000. Access to clean water has meant a significant improvement in the quality of life not just for locals, but also for those living in surrounding sites set up for displaced people.
In the old days, I couldn't find clear water to make breakfast for my children, and I had to go to the river when I did laundry. But it's such a blessing that the clear water is so close to us now. I can collect 20 liters of water by only one bear. Every day we have water to drink, and we can wash our clothes and take a bath.
Let me say they are perfect. They are very fast, and they are friendly. And I think they have completed the project within its limited time. As I said, there is drought. The people in the countryside need water. So we are providing clean water from this project. So this project is good for the town and also for the pastoral who are living in the countryside. We are very much thanking to the government and also to the implementing and Chinese agents.
In Yemen, the economy showed a recovery after a ceasefire between the Yemeni government and the Houthi militia became effective a week ago. The 2-month humanitarian truce initiated on April 2nd allowed vehicles and tankers to cross through areas controlled by the extremist groups, reducing the fuel shortage in the country and allowing the recovery of the Saudi real exchange rate. Yemeni President Radu Mansour Hadi announced the creation of a presidential leadership council responsible for negotiations with the Houthis in order to reach a definitive solution. In addition, the government of Saudi Arabia, together with the United Arab Emirates, announced that they will provide at least $2 million to the Central Bank of Yemen, as well as $300 million for the reconstruction of the country.
Fuel used to be so hard to buy. People used to queue for 2 or 3 days to get a barrel or two. Things are much. It will get better and better in the next few days. Previously, there were many capital injections. However, the prices of food and fuel did not fall, as there were many speculators playing currency games. If the central bank and economists can effectively use the injected funds, there will be positive results. The fuel prices would drop and people's living standards would improve.
And we have come to the end of this news brief. Remember, you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Telegram. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.